The alarm started at 0600 hours, and Daeun knew it was bad before he even checked his datapad. He had been working on Refuge Station for 2 years now, fixing broken things in a place full of broken people. The station hung in neutral space, a massive wheel of metal and hope where refugees from dying worlds came to start over. Today, something had gone very wrong. He ran toward the refugee quarter, his tool belt bouncing against his hip. Other crew members were running too, all heading the same direction. When he reached the main transit bridge, his stomach dropped. The bridge was a long suspended walkway that connected the living sections to the food distribution center. Now it hung in pieces, twisted metal and sparking cables, dangling over a 200-meter drop to the industrial levels below. The bridge had simply given up. Too much weight, too many repairs, too little funding. The middle section had collapsed, leaving a 15-meter gap of empty air and death. On the far side, Daeun could see people gathered, calling out in panic. He pushed through the crowd on his side until he could see what everyone was looking at. 6. Small figures huddled on the isolated platform. Children. No, not human children. Velka cubs? He recognized the species from the briefings. Feline-like aliens covered in soft fur with large eyes and flexible bodies. Their homeworld had been destroyed 3 months ago. Most of the adult survivors were on his side of the gap, crying out to the trapped youngsters. Daeun listened to the coalition officers arguing nearby. Someone wanted to use a shuttle, but there was no landing clearance for 36 hours because of traffic. Someone else suggested drilling through the bulkheads, but that would take days and might damage the hull. A Velka adult tried to climb out onto the broken bridge, but froze after 2 steps, shaking so hard Daeun could see it from 20 meters away. Heights triggered something primal in their species. Evolution had made them afraid of falling, and now that fear trapped them. He studied the wreckage. It was dangerous. It was stupid. It was exactly the kind of thing his old climbing instructor would have called a death wish. But Daeun had spent years climbing mountains in Utah before the war. He had spacewalked in Sol System during the conflicts. He knew broken things, and he knew how to move through dangerous spaces. More importantly, he could see a path. A narrow support beam here. A hanging cable there. Sharp edges and unstable footing, but possible. For a human. For someone who had learned to ignore the screaming voice in their head that said, "This is how you die?" He watched the cubs on the far platform. The oldest one, maybe equivalent to a 12-year-old human, held the smallest cub against her chest. Another cub rocked back and forth silently. They were terrified. They were hungry. They were alone. "I can get to them," Daeun said, the coalition officer. A tall Trithon with blue skin and too many arms looked at him like he was insane. "The structural integrity is compromised. You would be risking your life." Yeah, Daeun agreed. "But those cubs have been risking theirs just by existing for the last 3 months. We have protocols. We wait for proper rescue." Daeun looked at the cubs again. The smallest one was crying, making high-pitched sounds that cut through all the other noise. He thought about waiting. He thought about protocols. He thought about how long 36 hours felt when you were scared and hungry and small. He checked his magnetic grips, even though he knew they would barely work on the non-ferrous alloy of the bridge structure. He clipped his safety line to his belt, even though there was nowhere safe to anchor it in the middle section. He did these things because they made him feel better, not because they would actually save him if he fell. "Wait," the officer said. "That is an order." Daeun did not wait. He climbed over the safety railing and stepped out onto the broken bridge. The first section was easy. A wide beam, stable enough. He tested each step, distributing his weight carefully. Behind him, people were shouting. He ignored them. Ahead of him, the cubs had noticed him. He could see their faces now, large eyes watching this strange human creature walking toward them through empty air. The second section was harder. The beam angled down, slick with hydraulic fluid from a ruptured line. He moved sideways, feet positioned carefully, hands gripping the edges. One slip here and the magnetic grips might catch him. Might? He did not think about might. He thought about the next handhold. Halfway across, the real challenge began. The gap? 15 meters of nothing but twisted cables and one thin support beam that was never meant to hold weight. Daeyeon paused, breathing slowly. His heart hammered in his chest. This was the stupid part. This was where smart people turned around. He had never been particularly smart. He grabbed the cable, tested it with half his weight. It held. He swung out, feet finding the support beam below. For 3 heartbeats he hung between solid ground and empty air, every muscle screaming. Then his foot found purchase. He pulled himself forward, moving hand over hand. The cable rough against his palms, even through his gloves. A cable snapped. Not the one he was holding, but close enough. The support beam shifted, metal groaning. Daeyeon dropped half a meter, caught himself on a lower beam, his shoulder exploding in pain. Below him, 200 meters of empty space waited patiently. He laughed. He actually laughed, because what else could you do when you were dangling over death by your fingertips? Well, that was stupid, Daeyeon, he said to himself. His voice echoed in the vast chamber. He kept climbing. One grip at a time. One decision at a time. Don't think about the fall. Don't think about the gap growing behind you. Think about the next 5 seconds, and then the 5 seconds after that. The cubs watched him come. He could hear them making sounds, chirps, and whistles in their own language. The oldest one, the female with darker fur, stood in front of the others, protective and bristling. He did not blame her. Strange human crawling through broken metal, probably looked like a nightmare. 23 minutes after he started, his hand closed on solid decking. He pulled himself up and over, collapsing on the platform. His shoulder hurt. His hands hurt. Everything hurt in that good way that meant he was alive when he should not be. The cubs scattered backward, except for the oldest. She stood her ground, fur puffed up, making herself bigger. Protecting her family. Daeyeon sat there, breathing hard, and slowly pulled the emergency rations from his jacket. He had grabbed 6 packages before leaving. He tossed them gently across the platform, one by one. Eat, he said in Galactic Common, the simple trade language most species understood. Then we figure out how to get you home. The oldest cub did not move, did not trust him. Smart cub. The world had taught her not to trust adults who made promises, but the smallest cub, the one who had been crying, broke away from the group. He scrambled forward, grabbed a ration package, and retreated quickly. Opened it with small paws and started eating. One by one the others followed. Even the oldest, eventually. She never took her eyes off Daeyeon, but she ate. On the far side of the gap, the adults were calling across. Some were crying. Some were celebrating. Some were probably filing reports about the crazy human who ignored direct orders. Daeyeon leaned against the bulkhead and closed his eyes for just a moment. He had made it across. Now came the hard part. He had to teach 6 traumatized cubs to do what their own adults could not. He had to teach them to cross the bridge that terrified their entire species. He had to convince them that being afraid and moving forward anyway was possible. He had to teach them to be a little bit human. Daeyeon set up camp on the isolated platform. It was not much of a camp. He had his jacket, 6 emergency rations he had already given to the cubs, and a half-empty water container. He also had 6 terrified alien children who did not trust him and could not cross back the way he came. The cubs stayed in a tight group on the far end of the platform. The oldest one, the female with the dark fur, kept the others behind her. Daeyeon did not push. He sat near the edge, legs dangling over the drop, and drank some water. He could feel them watching him. Across the gap, adult Velka called out in their language. The sounds were urgent, probably reassuring. But every time the adults spoke, the cubs got more agitated. The smallest one started crying again. Daeyeon waved at the adults to stop. They did not understand at first, but eventually someone translated and they fell silent. After an hour, the oldest cub moved closer. Not friendly, but curious. She spoke in broken Galactic Common. You are human? Yeah, my name is Daeyeon. I am Bomi. She gestured at the others, naming them one by one. Taeyang, the curious one with bright eyes. Hana, the silent one who had not spoken since Daeyeon arrived. Minho trying to act brave. Guan, small and clinging to Bomi's side. Suho, the youngest, barely 5 years old and human equivalent, can you carry us across? Bomi asked. You are big. You crossed. Daeyun shook his head. You are too heavy. And the path is too dangerous for carrying. I need you to cross on your own. Bomi stood up. We cannot. We will not. Why not? We are Velka. We do not climb high things. It is wrong. Our bodies know it is wrong. She struggled with the words. Our people evolved in forests with strong branches. A fall means death. We know this in our bones. Even though we live in space now, we still know. Daeyun understood. Instinct was powerful. Humans had instincts too, and space had taught him how hard it was to ignore them. The first time he stepped out of an airlock with nothing but a suit between him and infinite vacuum, every cell in his body had screamed that this was wrong. What happened to your world? He asked quietly. Bomi was silent for a long time. Then in a small voice, Star became sick. Radiation. We had 3 days warning. Not everyone got off. My parents did not get off. The other cubs moved closer as she spoke. Taeyang pressed against her side. Even Hana, the silent one, leaned in. Ships came for children first, Bomi continued. We went up in shuttles. We watched from orbit, watched our world die. Watched the radiation storms. Watched everything burn. Daeyun felt something tight in his chest. He knew that pain. He had watched Sol System burn in the wars. Had watched his family station explode on a screen while he was 3 months away on patrol. That kind of pain did not heal. You just learn to carry it. The adults on the other side, he said, they want to help. They could not save our world. They could not save our parents. Why should we trust them now? Bomi's voice was bitter, too old for her age, and there it was, the real problem. These cubs did not just fear heights. They feared trust. Every adult in their lives had failed them when their planet died. Why believe anyone would keep them safe? Daeyun looked at the bridge, at the impossible path back. He could not force them, could not carry them, could not lie and say it would be easy. So he did the only thing he could think of. He decided to teach them. Come here, he said, standing up. I want to show you something. Bomi did not move. But Minho, the brave one, took a step forward, then Taeyang. Slowly they gathered around him. Even Hana followed, though she stayed at the back. Daeyun sat down at the edge of the platform, feet dangling. The cubs made sounds of alarm. He ignored them and ate one of his protein bars, chewing slowly, looking out at the station's vast interior. The human is crazy, Minho whispered in Galactic Common. Maybe, Daeyun agreed, but I am also not falling. He pointed at the decking. Your people are afraid of heights because falls kill you? That is smart. Fear keeps you alive. But fear also traps you. You need to learn what is real danger and what is just fear. He stood up and walked to a point 1 meter from the edge. He placed a piece of protein bar there. Come get it. None of them moved. He placed another piece 2 meters from the edge. Then 3 meters, then 4. Making a trail of food that led closer and closer to the drop dot, So, the youngest, went first. He was hungry and still trusted food more than fear. He grabbed the piece at 4 meters and ran back. Then Minho tried for 3 meters. Made it. Taeyang got 2 meters, then 1 meter, but that last piece, right at the edge, nobody touched. Daeyun picked it up and sat down with his legs over the side. You know what the difference is between me and you? You think the edge is the danger. I know the edge is just a place. The danger is falling. And I do not plan to fall. He showed them how he sat. Weight back. Center of gravity low. 3 points of contact. He showed them how to test the stability of decking before trusting it. How to move slowly, deliberately. Courage is not about not being scared, he said. Courage is being scared and doing the thing anyway. For the next 6 hours, he broke down every skill they would need. How to grip metal with their paws. How to distribute weight. How to keep 3 points of contact while moving. How to breathe when panic came, he told them stories. About learning to climb in the mountains of Utah, about falling into a river and nearly drowning when he was 8. About his first spacewalk. when the void called to him and every instinct screamed to go back inside. I was terrified, he admitted. But I wanted to see the stars up close more than I wanted to be safe, so I took one step. Then another, fear got smaller, I got bigger. Tiang listened with his ears forward, fascinated. You do scary things on purpose? Humans do. We climb mountains, we dive deep water. We jump from flying machines with cloth to slow us down. We do these things because when you choose something scary, it is different than when scary things are done to you. One makes you smaller. The other makes you bigger. He rigged a rope along a stable section of the platform. Had them practice walking along it, holding the rope, building confidence. Suho did it first because he was too young to know it should be scary. Then the others followed one by one. Hannah went last. She moved so slowly, eyes squeezed almost shut, but she did it. And when she reached the end, Dayun saw something flicker in her eyes. Not happiness, but something. Acknowledgement. As the station's lights dimmed to night cycle, the cubs were exhausted. They curled up together in their pile, the way their species slept. Dayun sat apart, giving them space, but Suho broke away from the group and climbed into his lap. Are you scared of anything? The small cub asked. Dayun thought about this. Yeah, lots of things. I am scared of failing. Scared of being alone. Scared that the people I care about will die and I will not be there to help. But you crossed the bridge. Being scared does not mean you cannot move. It just means you have to move scared. Suho curled up against him, small and warm. Across the platform, Bomi watched with unreadable eyes. But she did not call Suho back. Before they slept, Minho asked, Tomorrow, do we try the hard part? Dayun looked at the gap, at the cables and beams and empty air, at the path that would test everything they learned today. Tomorrow we try, we go as far as you can, no more, no less. And if you cannot finish, that is okay. Someone will cut through the walls in 2 days, you are safe either way. But you think we can do it? Taiyang asked. Dayun met their eyes, one by one. 6 traumatized cubs who had survived their world ending, who had lived through refugee camps and starvation and loss. They were already stronger than they knew. Yeah, he said. I think you are braver than most adults I know. You just do not know it yet, Bomi spoke from the darkness. And tomorrow you will show us? Tomorrow, Dayun promised. I will walk beside you. Every step. You will not be alone. For the first time since their world died, the cubs slept without nightmares. Dawn cycle came to refuge station, lights slowly brightening to simulate morning. Dayun woke with Suho still curled against him and his shoulder aching from yesterday's crossing. The other cubs were already awake, huddled together. Watching the gap, he had marked the route last night with luminescent tape, breaking it into sections. 5 stages from here to safety. Each one harder than the last. Stage 1 was the easy part, a solid catwalk with a guide rope. If they could not do Stage 1, they would not do any of it. Across the gap, adults had gathered again. Coalition officials too, with cameras. Word had spread about the human who crawled across broken bridges and the cubs he was trying to teach. Some people thought it was inspiring. Others thought it was child endangerment. Dayun tried not to think about either group. He gathered the cubs. Listen carefully. Today we cross, or we stop trying and wait for rescue. Both are okay. I need you to understand that. You are not failing if you cannot do this. The bridge is dangerous. Your fear is real. But if you want to try, I will be with you every step. Bomi looked at her siblings, then at Dayun. We try. Stage 1 was straightforward. A wide catwalk with railings on both sides and a rope strung at shoulder height. Dayun went first, showing them how to move. Step, test, step. 3 points of contact. 1 paw on the rope always. Minho went second. He was brave but rushed, wanting to prove himself. Dayun made him stop and slow down. Speed does not matter. Only making it across matters. One by one, they crossed Stage 1. Jiwon needed Bomi beside her the whole way. Hannah moved slowly, methodically, eyes focused on the decking rather than the drop. Suho rode on Dayan's back like a small backpack, clinging to his jacket. When they all reached the first platform, Taeng looked back at what they had crossed and made a sound of surprise. "We did it?" "Stage 1, Dayan agreed. 4 more to go." Stage 2 was harder. An angled beam, no railings, just a single guide rope. The angle meant fighting gravity, leaning into the slope while moving. Dayan demonstrated, showing them how to keep their weight low, how to use the rope for balance, not support. Bomi went first this time, testing herself as the oldest. She made it look easy, moving with the natural grace of her species. The others followed. Then Minho went. Halfway across, he slipped. His back paws lost traction on the smooth metal. He started sliding sideways. His front paws scrambled, claws scraping. He caught the rope, but his weight was wrong, pulling him outward toward the edge. Minho froze, completely locked up, clinging to the rope, not moving. Below him, 200 meters of empty air waited. The other cubs started making distress sounds. Bomi tried to go back to him, but Dayan stopped her. "Wait here." He moved out onto the beam, testing each step. The angle made it worse, fighting his own weight. He reached Minho, who was shaking so hard the rope vibrated. "Look at me," Dayan said, keeping his voice calm. "Not down." "At me." Minho's huge eyes locked onto his face. "Good, now breathe. In for 4 counts, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Out for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. He made Minho breathe with him for a full minute. The shaking slowed. Did not stop, but slowed. Your paws are already in the right position. You do not have to do anything new. Just move one paw forward. Just one. I will count to 3, and you move it, okay? A tiny nod. 1, 2, 3. Minho moved one paw. Barely 5 centimeters, but he moved it. Perfect. Again. 1, 2, 3. Another paw. Then another. Slow as melting ice, but moving. Dayan stayed right beside him, matching his pace, talking him through every movement. When they reached the platform, Minho collapsed. The other cubs surrounded him, chirping comfort. Bomi turned on Dayan, fur bristling. "This is too dangerous. We are done." "No more." Dayan sat down heavily. His shoulder was screaming. The injury from yesterday, made worse by today's effort. He could see the adults on the far side, some shouting that this was wrong, that children should not have to do this. Maybe they were right. "You are right," he told Bomi. "I cannot make you continue. If you want to stop, we stop." He looked at all 6 of them, these small survivors who had already lost everything once. "Here is what happens next. Either you cross, or Coalition Command will spend 2 days cutting through walls to reach you. Both are okay. You are safe now either way." He struggled to his feet, wincing. "But I want you to know something. That thing that just happened with Minho? That is life. Scary things happen. Plans fail. Sometimes you are hanging on and everything goes wrong." He met Bomi's eyes. "What matters is that someone comes for you when you slip. And that you learn you can hold on. That you learn your paws are strong enough." Silence on the platform. The adults across the gap had gone quiet, watching. Then Hannah stood up. Silent Hannah, who had not spoken since her world died. She looked at the route ahead, at the next stage marked with luminescent tape. She looked at Dayan, and in a voice like rust, like something broken and trying to work again, she said 3 words. "Show me how—" Everyone stared at her. Hannah stared back. "I did harder things already. Talking again was harder than this. Show me how to cross." Dayan felt something catch in his throat. He nodded. "Okay, let me show you." Stage 3 was the cable traverse. Hanging cables that required pulling yourself hand over paw across a gap. Dayan had rigged safety lines, but there was a 3-meter section where if someone fell and the safety failed, the drop was lethal. He had agonized over this stage. It was necessary to reach stage 4, but it was also terrifying. He demonstrated first. Grip the cable. Wrap your legs if possible. Pull, move, pull, move. Do not look down. Focus on the next grip, not the destination, Minho refused. After his slip on stage 2, he could not make himself try. Dae-yun did not push. You stay here. That is okay. You already did something brave today. Taeyang went next. Made it halfway. A cable frayed, not enough to snap but enough to slip. He dropped 5 centimeters, swung wild, his safety line catching but leaving him dangling. He froze, making sounds of pure terror. Dae-yun was already moving. He clipped onto the parallel cable, traversed out to Taeyang. The cables were not designed for combined weight. They creaked. Metal groaned. Somewhere, someone was probably screaming at them to stop. Look at me, Dae-yun said. Only at me. Taeyang looked. His eyes were huge, pupils dilated with fear. Your paws are already on the cable. You are already doing it. Now you just move one paw? I will count 1, 2, 3. Taeyang moved. Again, another movement. Paw by paw, with Dae-yun right beside him, they crossed together. When they reached solid platform, Taeyang was shaking so hard he could not stand. One by one, the others tried. Ji-won made it across quickly, surprising everyone. Suho went on Dae-yun's back again, clinging tight. Domi crossed last, moving with grim determination, refusing to show fear even though Dae-yun could see it in every tense muscle that left Hana and Minho on the far platform. Minho shook his head when Dae-yun called to him. Too scared. Too done. And that was okay. But Hana stood up. She approached the cable. Looked at it for a long moment. Then began to cross. She moved so slowly. Each paw placement took forever. She tested every grip twice before trusting it. Halfway across, she stopped, hanging there, and everyone held their breath. You are doing great, Dae-yun called softly. Take your time. Hana started moving again. Pulled herself along with methodical precision, like she had done this 1,000 times and was simply remembering the pattern. When she reached the platform, she climbed off the cable and sat down. Talking was harder, she repeated. Then, but this was also hard. Dae-yun wanted to laugh and cry at the same time. Instead, he said, You are incredibly brave. They rested on the platform. Stage 4 and 5 still waited, but they had crossed 3 stages. 3 impossible things. Across the gap, Minho sat alone, but he was safe. Someone would reach him when the drilling teams broke through. Suho leaned against Dae-yun. Are we bigger now? Like you said? Dae-yun looked at these 5 cubs. These survivors who had crossed broken bridges because they chose to, not because they had to. Yeah, little one. You are enormous. Stage 4 waited ahead like an open mouth. Dae-yun had agonized over this part, spent hours last night calculating angles and distances while the cubs slept. The gap in the bridge was 3 meters wide. Too far to step across. Too far to reach. The only way over was a running jump to grab a mounted handlebar on the far side, with a cargo net strung below as safety, for Dae-yun. With his climbing experience and human build, it was manageable. Scary, but possible. For traumatized cubs with a species-wide fear of heights, it was asking them to leap into their worst nightmare. Station Command had sent him messages all night. Orders to wait. The drilling teams were 12 hours from breakthrough now. Medical staff were ready. There was no need to continue. But Dae-yun looked at the 5 cubs resting on the platform, looked at what they had already accomplished, and knew stopping now would teach the wrong lesson. They had learned they could do hard things. This was the final test. We do not have to do this, he told them honestly. Rescue is coming. You are already heroes for getting this far. But I think we should finish what we started. Bomi stood up, looked at the gap, looked back at him. Show us. Dae-yun positioned himself at the running start point. Explained the technique. Build speed, plant the foot, push off, reach for the bar. The net below would catch you if you missed, but missing would hurt and probably break something. Better to catch the bar. He ran, planted, jumped. For one terrible moment, he was flying over empty space, nothing but air beneath him. His hands closed on the bar. His momentum swung him forward. He pulled himself up and over onto the platform, breathing hard. Your turn, he called back. Taiyang went first. The curious one, the one who always wanted to see what came next. He ran, jumped, and his trajectory was good. His paws caught the bar. He swung wild but held on, pulled himself over. Looked shocked by his own success. I did it. I actually did it. His voice was filled with wonder. Went next, but differently. Daeyun had him run to build confidence, but at the last moment, Daeyun scooped him up and jumped with him. The smallest cub needed to feel what success felt like, even if he could not do it alone yet. They landed together, Suho chirping with excitement. G1 approached the edge. Looked at the gap? Tried to run, froze, tried again. Froze again. She started making distressed sounds. Small cries of frustration and fear. Bomi crossed back on the cable route, abandoning her position to comfort her sister. Whispered in her ear in their own language. Jiwan shook her head, backing away from the edge. Daeyun had an idea. It was risky. If it went wrong, he could get hurt badly. But watching Jiwan's courage crumble broke something in him. Jiwan, he called. Do you trust me? She looked at him with those huge eyes. A tiny nod. Then jump to me. Not to the bar? To me. I will catch you. Bomi hissed in alarm. She is too heavy. You will both fall. I will not fall, Daeyun said with confidence he did not entirely feel. He braced himself on the platform, feet anchored, arms out. Jiwan, run as fast as you can and jump to me. I promise I will catch you. Jiwan looked at Bomi. Bomi looked at Daeyun. At this human who had crawled across broken bridges for strangers, who had taught them to be brave. She nodded to her sister. Jiwan ran. Pushed off. Flew through empty air. Her trajectory was wrong. She was going to fall short. Her paws would miss the bar, miss the platform, hit the net below. And that would destroy her fragile courage forever, Daeyun lunged. Stretched every centimeter he could. His hand closed around her forearm just as she started to fall. The momentum nearly pulled him over the edge. His feet slipped. For one horrible heartbeat, they were both going over. Then his magnetic grips caught. His feet found purchase. He hauled backward with everything he had, muscles screaming, shoulder injury tearing. They fell backward onto the platform together, gasping. Ji1 was shaking. Daeyun was shaking. But she was safe. She was across. I knew you would catch me, she whispered. Daeyun could not speak for a moment. Just held her until the shaking stopped. Always, he finally managed. I will always try to catch you. Tang crossed back to help the others. Only Bomi and Hannah remained on the far side. Hannah looked at the gap, looked at Daeyun, and simply walked back to get a running start. She ran, jumped. Her form was perfect, movement economical. She caught the bar, swung herself over with the same methodical precision she had shown on the cables. When she landed, she shrugged at their stares. I already did the hardest thing. Talking again was hardest. This is just jumping. Now only Bomi remained. The eldest cub stood at the edge, looking across at her siblings on the other side. She had kept them alive through planetary death, refugee camps, starvation. She had been their mother when their real mother died. She was only 12 years old and had carried the weight of 5 lives on her shoulders. I cannot, she said, and her voice broke. I cannot do it. Tiang called encouragement. Suho begged her to try. But Bomi shook her head, backing away from the edge. Daeyun used the cable route to cross back to her. It was getting easier now, his body remembering the movements. When he reached her, Bomi was crying. Velka did not cry like humans, but her eyes were wet and her fur was flat against her skull. If I fall, she whispered, who protects them? And there it was. The real fear. Not the gap. Not the height. The fear of letting go. The fear that if she was not strong enough, not perfect enough, everyone she loved would die. Daeyun sat down beside her. You have been carrying them alone since your world died. That is too heavy for anyone, even someone as strong as you. I am the oldest. It is my responsibility. You are also a child, he said gently. You should not have to be this strong. Not alone. He held out his hand. Let me carry some of it. Just for this jump? Just this once, let someone else be strong with you. Bomi looked at his hand. At the gap. At her siblings calling to her from the far side. At this strange human who had crawled through impossible places because it was the right thing to do. Together. She asked, voice so small. Together. They stood at the running start point. Linked arms. Dae-yun counted down. On 3 they ran together. Their timing was wrong, their rhythm off. They jumped anyway. They flew through empty air, gripping each other. Dae-yun's hand caught the bar. Bomi's paws caught his jacket. For a moment they hung there, swinging, combined weight straining the mount. Dae-yun's shoulder screamed. His grip started slipping. Then Bomi's paws found the bar beside his hands. They swung together, pulled together, tumbled onto the platform in a heap. The other cubs piled on top of them, chirping and crying and celebrating. Stage 5 was just a ladder. Long, exhausting, but straightforward. They climbed together, helping each other when arms got tired. When Suho's paws touched solid decking on the safe side of the bridge, the entire refugee quarter erupted in cheers. Adult Velka rushed forward. Medical teams swarmed them. Coalition officials appeared with datapads and questions. Dae-yun let them take the cubs, let the doctors check them over, let himself be pulled aside for debriefing. His shoulder was badly injured. His hands were torn up. He had ignored direct orders and endangered children and probably violated a dozen regulations. He did not care. The cubs were safe. More importantly, they had learned something that would carry them through whatever came next. They had learned that fear did not have to trap them. That someone would come for them when they slipped? That being brave was possible, even when everything was broken. A medical tech tried to steer him toward the clinic. He pulled away, just for a moment, to look back at the bridge. At the broken, impossible path he had crossed twice now. At the gap that had seemed too wide, across the distance, he could see Minho still waiting on the isolated platform where Stage 3 ended. Rescue crews were nearly to him, cutting through walls. He had not finished the crossing, but he had tried. That was enough, Dae-yun smiled. Then he let the medical teams take him away to fix everything he had broken, saving 6 small lives. 3 months passed like water through cupped hands. Refuge Station repaired the bridge properly this time, with redundancies and fail-safes and enough inspections to satisfy even the most paranoid engineers. The Velka refugees found new homes in a colony system with proper gravity and security. Ships came and went. New refugees arrived to replace the old ones. The station kept spinning, kept offering sanctuary to those who had nowhere else to go. Dae-yun returned to his regular work, fixing broken pipes, calibrating pressure sensors, maintaining the endless machinery that kept thousands of beings alive in the void. His shoulder healed slowly, leaving a permanent ache that flared up when the station's weather systems changed. His personnel file now included commendations. He had not bothered to read in a galactic coalition. Medal of Civilian Valor sitting in a storage locker somewhere because he kept forgetting to pick it up. He was alone in a service tunnel, recalibrating sensors when his datapad chimed. Message from an unknown address? He almost deleted it, another piece of spam or automated notice, but something made him open it instead. The sender was Bomi. His hand stopped working. Just stopped, tools hanging in midair. He had not heard from the cubs since they left. Had not expected to. People moved on. That was how it worked. You touched lives briefly, then let them go. He opened the message. Short text, apologizing for taking so long to find his contact information. The Velka family who adopted them, distant relatives who survived on an off-world station, had finally gotten settled. The cubs were safe, healing, learning to be children again instead of survivors. Then Bomi said she had attached a video. Dae-yun almost did not watch it. Some part of him was afraid. Afraid they would have forgotten him. Afraid the crossing would haunt them. Afraid he had broken them in some way his human mind could not understand. He played the video. It showed a park on the new colony world. Green space and open air, so different from the metal corridors of Refuge Station. There was a playground with climbing structures, complex arrangements of ropes and nets and platforms and gaps to jump, human-designed. Structures, the cubs played on them with a fearlessness that made his throat tight. Jiwan leaped gaps without hesitation. Tiang raced across rope bridges. Suho hung from bars, swinging like he was flying. Even Minho was there, carefully but confidently navigating a cable traverse, using techniques Dae-yun had taught them, but it was Hannah who made him smile. Silent Hannah, who had found her voice on a broken bridge. She stood on a platform with younger Velka cubs, teaching them how to grip properly, how to test their weight, how to breathe through fear. Her voice was clear and steady, explaining that being scared was okay as long as you moved anyway. The video shifted. Bomi appeared, looking older somehow. More at peace. She stood with the adult Velka relatives, watching the cubs play. Not hovering. Not controlling. Just watching the way adults should. You taught us humans are crazy, Bomi said to the camera. You are right. Crazy enough to crawl on broken bridges for strangers. Crazy enough to believe traumatized cubs could learn courage. She paused, and Dae-yun could see her struggling with words. We call this place Little Paws Park, because you showed us we could follow where even adults feared to go. You went first through the scary place, and we learned we could follow. Her voice dropped softer. Thank you, Dae-yun, for not waiting, for not leaving us trapped, for teaching us that being afraid and being brave can happen at the same time. The video ended. Dae-yun sat in the service tunnel for a long time, tools forgotten. Just watching that last frame of Bomi's face, the story spread. Not as official propaganda, but as whispered truth in refugee camps and colony worlds. When the Velka cubs were trapped, their own adults could not cross. But a human went first. Crawled across broken metal and empty air because someone had to. And Little Paws followed. It became something bigger than one rescue. It became a story refugees told each other when fear seemed too heavy. It became evidence that broken things, broken people, could find courage if someone showed them how. Dae-yun started receiving requests. Other species, other situations. A Trethan family whose children had stopped speaking after a station attack. Calvorian youngsters who could not sleep after their colony was raided. Children traumatized by war, displacement, loss, who needed someone to show them how to be brave again. He refused at first. He was an engineer, not a counselor. He fixed machines, not minds. But the requests kept coming, and he kept thinking about Hana finding her voice. About Minho learning to breathe through panic. About Bomi learning she did not have to carry everything alone. He accepted one case. Then another. Found he had a gift for it. Humans were good at facing fear, at doing impossible things, at refusing to accept that broken meant permanently destroyed. These skills translated. When a Trethan cub could not enter enclosed spaces, Dae-yun showed her how to start small. When Calvorian youngsters woke screaming, he taught them breathing techniques soldiers used. 6 months after the bridge, Refuge Station launched the First Step Initiative, a formal program pairing human volunteers with refugee children whose instincts had been shattered by trauma. Humans, with their strange willingness to do dangerous things on purpose, their adaptability, their stubborn belief that fear could be conquered, became teachers of courage. The program spread to other stations. Other colonies. Dae-yun trained the volunteers. His first lesson was always the same. You are not teaching them to be human. You are teaching them to be brave in their own way. Every species has different fears, different strengths. Your job is not to eliminate fear. Your job is to show them that fear does not have to stop them. He taught them to break big fears into small pieces, to celebrate tiny victories, to go first so others could follow, to catch someone when they slipped and teach them their own paws were strong enough to hold on. Years passed. The cubs grew. Bomi entered university, studying interspecies childhood psychology. Hannah became a trauma counselor. Tang joined a rescue ship crew. Jiwan started teaching on a colony world. Suho, still young, competed in climbing competitions that used human-designed courses. Even Minho, who never finished the bridge crossing, found his courage. He became an advocate for refugee children, speaking about how trying was enough. How stopping when you needed to stop was also brave, 5 years after the bridge. Dae-yun stood at the back of a coalition gathering for refugee support services. He was 40 now, with gray threading through his hair and permanent pain in his shoulder. On stage, Bomi spoke to an audience of officials and refugees from dozens of species. She talked about trauma and instinct and fear, about how every species had different breaking points. My people freeze at heights. Trethans panic in enclosed spaces. Calvorians shut down in darkness. After trauma, these instincts become prisons. She gestured to slides showing brain scans and behavioral studies. Traditional therapy says respect the walls. Make space safe. Do not push. And sometimes that is right. But sometimes you have to climb the wall. Not alone. Never alone, but you have to try. She described her work now helping refugee children across the galaxy, developing protocols that respected species differences while teaching universal courage. She and the other cubs had dedicated their lives to helping others the way they had been helped. The bridge was terrifying, she said, but staying trapped was worse. Staying small, staying helpless, staying frozen by fear, that was the real danger. She looked directly at where Dae-yun stood, though she had not acknowledged him yet. Humans have a saying, feel the fear and do it anyway. My people learned a new saying from a human who ignored every logical voice saying it was impossible. We say it in our language, but it translates to this. She spoke the phrase in Velkan, then in Galactic Common. Someone will go first, follow. The audience applauded. Refugees crowded around her afterward. Dae-yun tried to slip out, uncomfortable with attention, but Bomi caught him at the door. Running away? Her tone was teasing, affectionate. You were great. Do not need me hanging around. She studied him with those sharp Velkan eyes. Older now, confident, but still carrying that core of strength she had even at 12. The others wanted to be here. Hana is defending her research next week. Minho is speaking at another conference. Tiang is on a rescue mission. Jiwan is teaching. Suho is only 10, but he wins competitions now. She smiled. We turned out okay. Because you went first. Dae-yun shrugged, uncomfortable. You did the hard part. You showed us we could walk at all, Bomi corrected. She handed him a data chip. Every child who has gone through First Step Initiative. Every species. Every story. Thousands of them now. All because you refused to let 6 scared cubs stay trapped. He took the chip, could not speak. One more thing, Bomi said. We are expanding the program. We need a director. Someone who understands what it means to be broken and build yourself back. Someone crazy enough to believe healing is possible. She meant him. I am not qualified. You were not qualified to cross that bridge either. But you did it anyway. He looked at the chip in his hand. Thought about all those children, all those species, learning courage from humans who went first through scary places. Thought about his own losses, his own fears, and how saving the cubs had somehow saved him too. Okay, he said quietly. I will try.